What's up everybody, I'm Gushy, and it's about time! Sucker Punch finally gave us a date on when Legends is going to be released. A new trailer just dropped today and a new blog post from PlayStation, so if you haven't checked that out already, I'll leave a couple links in the description below. So in this video, we're going to be going over everything in the trailer, breaking it down, so you can know what to expect on October 16th, 1.5 weeks when it releases. So first thing to note is that once you get that new update for Ghost of Tsushima 1.1, you have to go to the store to unlock the Legends DLC. Also, you're going to need an internet connection and an active PS Plus subscription so you can play with other players. We got a bunch of new information on loot, weapons, abilities, new skill trees, new gear, but the first thing that I want to go over is the power system for co-op. Similar to a lot of looter shooters, we're going to have different gear slots. In this case, we have our main weapon, our secondary weapon, a charm, and 2 abilities. These all have rarities from common up to epic, which each has a certain power level. Similar to things like Destiny or Assassin's Creed Odyssey, you get drops from certain enemies which give you higher level gear, which then increases your overall power level until you reach the max. Noted on the left hand side, this is your gear. All these 5 items are interchangeable, kind of like how the charms work in single player. Starting off with the weapons that are shown, in the trailer we see 4 different types of weapons: the wind katana, the longbow, the half bow, and the stone katana. The long and the half bow are probably similar to what we have in single player, but the thing that interests me the most is why the katana has a certain stance tied to it. Of course we're going to get all the stances by default, but this makes me believe that depending on the katana that you wield, you might get a certain buff or extra abilities while using that stance. Next, for each class we see 1 charm equipped, and we see a utility charm, a range charm, and a samurai charm. Again, most of these probably work similar to how the single player works, but with the samurai charm also shown, there will be class specific charms. Finally, in the last 2 slots, we have a mixture of weapons and it looks like abilities. We see familiar items like kunai and smoke bombs, but we also see new items which looks like they provide more utility. So we have the caltrops, which will affect a certain AoE, and a healing gourd, which will give you extra health and make you more tanky. And just like all looter shooter games that include rarity items, there's always unique perks depending on the rarity of the gear. Following other types of games, the higher the rarity, the more perks that you're going to get along with that gear. Common gear, which is usually depicted by a green color, will most likely have 1 perk available. Blue, which is rare, usually has 2 perks. Epic, which is purple, will have 3. And not shown here is a legendary, which usually has a perk that you can't get anywhere else. So I'm really interested to know what these perks are. Each probably gives you some kind of buff, like a moderate or minimum stat boost, or they could be even special, giving you extra abilities from single player. Alright, on to the next tab, which is techniques. Again, similar to single player, techniques usually refer to your samurai abilities, your ghost weapons, and evolving tactics, as well as your stances. None of this is actually shown in the trailer, but we can guess that this is the techniques specific to the class that you choose. And if it is, the PlayStation blog post actually gave us some abilities and their names for each class. Before we get into that, I did want to mention that the blog post did say that you will have to choose 1 starting class when first starting Legends, and then as you rank up, you'll unlock other remaining classes. So just like choosing your horse at the beginning of the game, this is pretty important, mostly because each class will have different abilities, so choose carefully. Each class will have its own ultimate ability and probably side abilities that you can use more frequently. Okay, starting off with the samurai. Samurai players can run straight toward combat and stay there, sustaining their health while chopping enemies down left and right. And it seems like samurai will be the tank of the group, most likely with more healing abilities on top of the healing gourd that can also heal yourself. It also mentions the samurai's ultimate ability, which is called Hachiman's Fury, which will allow you to slash through enemies in a flurry of strikes. Another thing to mention is that on top of all the gear that you have on the right hand side, we have something mentioned as a class ability. In this case, it's called a Spirit Pull. In the blog post, it mentions that each class will have its own starting unique ability, as well as alternative options as you rank up. And I think the Spirit Pull is this exact unique starting ability. while the health sustain and the Hachiman sphere is more of a technique. Like any pull ability, this will probably attract a bunch of enemies within an AoE, which then could be comboed with another AoE attack. So this will probably be useful against adds, clearing out multiple enemies at once. Next is the Hunter. The blog post gives you 2 techniques. One is the use of explosive arrows to slow down groups, and second is the ultimate ability or technique, which is called Eye of Uchitsune. This ultimate attack will unleash multiple arrows straight at the enemy's head. The class ability shown on screen is called Staggering Arrow, and like the name suggests, will probably stagger enemies, breaking their guard and leaving them open up to attack. And this could be super useful against bosses to immediately take down their guard and do direct damage and take them out as fast as possible. Onto the Ronin. Ronins have 2 special techniques. Its ultimate technique, Breath of Izanami, lets you revive the entire team. The next technique or ability is summoning a spirit animal. As shown in the trailer, the Ronin summons a spirit dog, which you can pet just like the foxes. This is also shown above your gear as a class ability. I'm hoping that later down the skill tree you could summon even more powerful animals like deer or bear, or even some Japanese mythical creature, which would be really cool. Finally, the last class is the Assassin. Only 1 technique is mentioned, and this is the ultimate called Shadow Strike. This allows you to teleport across the battlefield and directly strike your enemies. The final 2 menu items shown on the left side are appearances and for a brief second emotes and VFX. In the appearance section, you could change 3 different types of cosmetic items. The class item, which only shows different helmets that you can wear. The body, which currently includes all the current armor sets that you can acquire in single player, but has these cool armor dyes. One that has this emissive lightning or magma effect, and another which includes arrows sticking out of your body. And finally, the sword kit, which is probably similar to how single player is. The last menu item is the emotes and VFX. And emotes is something that we haven't seen yet, besides doing poses like playing the flute, bowing, or just changing stances. Some more emotes to pose as while using photo mode is always great. And VFX. We see in the trailer that a lot of the moves have this white effect, and I'm hoping that we can change this with the VFX. Imagine having the lightning or magma effect that you get on the body, but incorporate it into an attack. It looks super cool, and also make great photos. So this is everything that we can get within the game. But let's talk about the content that we'll actually be playing. We already know that there's going to be 2 different types of game modes. One is the co-op story missions, and we get some information on this. The story missions that we're going to be going through are going to explain what's happening in Tsushima, and the blog post also mentions that when you unlock higher difficulties, you'll face new encounters, tougher enemies, bonus objectives, and even greater rewards. If we compare this to other looter shooters like Destiny, each activity like a strike or a story mission has different difficulty levels, always depending on what power level you are. If we incorporate that concept here, we were already shown that your current rank is split up into 3 different types. We don't have any names for this yet, but they are separated by color. Rank 0 to 50 is orange or yellow, 50 to 100 is green, and 100 to 150 is blue. So I'm guessing this is what the blog post is referencing. As you rank up, you'll get more bonus objectives and better loot. The second game type is the survival missions. This is where you can match with 3 other players to fight off waves of enemies. And there's a unique mechanic that it's explained called blessings. It mentions that it can help you like igniting enemies or summoning a spirit bear. And this seems something similar to Black Ops Zombies. When you kill an enemy, you have a chance to drop a certain power up or ability to help you survive or complete the objectives faster. Finally, we also got information about the raid that will happen several weeks after Legends releases. If we say it's around 2 weeks, this will line up perfectly with Halloween weekend. And what the blog post gives us is more information on EO, which I mentioned in my Legends new info video. It seems like this whole realm that we're going to be entering, fighting off all these demons and using cool abilities, is all under EO's realm. So if you want more information, check out my other video, which I'll link a card right here. For those of you who aren't really interested in all this co-op mythical fantasy stuff, good news, we finally got New Game Plus. I've been saying in the comments in my other videos, if they just added New Game Plus and extra charms, I'd totally be fine with it. And guess what? They did it! New Game Plus will be launching with the Legends update, where you'll start shortly after Jin's initial confrontation with the Khan, and you'll get to keep all your techniques, gear, and vanity items collected through your previous playthrough. So let's go over all the new stuff that you'll find in New Game Plus. First is a new horse, which is black and has a red saddle. Next is additional upgrades for your sword, bow, and armor sets. And finally is the Ghost Flower Merchant, where you could trade for new things like new armor dyes, new charms, but only takes a special type of currency called the Ghost Flower, which only could be attained in New Game Plus. With new charms coming out, you know I'm gonna make build videos on them. Currently there are 2 shown in the trailer. One is the Charm of Heavenly Rebuke, which has a chance for lightning to strike nearby enemies when using Heavenly Strike. This would work perfectly with my Infinite Heavenly Strike build, making it even more overpowered than it already is. The second charm shown is called the Charm of Incineration, which is already in the game but shows a different description. So this might be a typo, but the perks on it will probably be one of the new charms. This one states that the Way of the Flame will inflict additional damage, and using heavy attacks will spread fire to nearby enemies. I've desperately been trying to make my Fire Beyblade build viable even on lethal, but it never was good enough, so this charm might put it over the edge. Okay, finally, a couple of quality of life changes. First is that you can make different loadouts. Instead of having to equip all your different charms while you switch armor sets to make different builds, that has all changed. Each armor set can hold a variety of charms, which then, when you switch armor, will automatically switch to that loadout. It's slightly unfortunate that it's tied to a specific armor set. You might want to make different builds that use the same armor set but different charms, or different armor sets that use the same charms, and I'm hoping that this new loadout system accounts for that. With that, that's everything that I found out while gathering all this info dump from the trailer to the blog post. Let me know in the comment section down below what class you'll be maining at the start of Legends. I know I'll be maining the Ronin, partly because you can summon and pet your spirit dog, but mostly for that team res. Following trends from other games, res is way overpowered. In Destiny, the Warlock had the Sun Singer ability. In multiplayer called Trials of Osiris, that was probably the best super that you can have. And in raids, so you can res yourself when you die and not have to start over. When Destiny 2 launched, they completely removed it from the game. Also, in Overwatch, when the game first came out, Mercy had the ability to res her whole team, and there were so many reworks and nerfs to this ability until it ultimately landed upon only being able to res one person with a really long cooldown. So if you enjoyed this video, a like would be super appreciated. And if you want more information on Ghost of Tsushima Legends, subscribe so you can always keep up to date with all the new videos that I post. Thanks for watching, and GG.